Tim Walz is the dad that people who grew up in dysfunctional families wish they had, the grandpa that people who have lost their grandparents to Fox so-called news wish they had, or wish he could sit down with their parents, or grandparents rather, and say, it's going to be okay, and you can leave that MAGA stuff behind. Jen Senko produced a movie, The Brainwashing of My Dad. She's been on this program a number of times. She turned it into a book as well, about how she lost her own father to Fox so-called news. He retired, and normal Midwestern guy, he retired and began watching Fox News, and within a year he had become withdrawn, bitter, angry, and was filled with hate. And she and her family staged an intervention. They basically took Fox away from Grandpa, or from Dad in her case. And, using that child lock option that's the cable systems have, where you can lock out a channel. And when he went back to watching normal television, CNN, MSNBC, BBC, Dad made a full recovery from the temporary mental illness that Rupert Murdoch had thrown him into. And this is something that is, a very real thing, which I'll get back to in just a second. But here's Tim Walz. He's kind of the anti-Murdoch. He's the not just the antithesis of, but the antidote to the kind of poison that Fox News and right-wing hate radio sells every day. And I use the word sells intentionally because they're literally making billions of dollars a year selling poison, selling psychological poison, selling emotional poison, selling political poison. This hate and bigotry that has been driving this right-wing, this frothing, foaming at the mouth right-wing hate machine. There's not a city in America that doesn't have right-wing hate on the radio. You literally, there's no place in America where you can't turn on the radio and find right-wing hate. Maybe only 20% of America can you turn on the radio and find any kind of progressive voice, but right-wing hate is everywhere. And that's no accident. From Rupert Murdoch, Reagan fast-tracking his citizenship back in 1985, and then him rolling out Fox News in 96. I mean, just the level of hate and anger that has been coming out of this media machine for about 40 years now. I mean, it really got started in 86, 87 when Reagan blew up the Fairness Doctrine, and Rush Limbaugh's show was rolled out the following year. And, here we are. Here we are. So Tim Walz comes along, and he's like I said, he's kind of the antidote to this mind poison. He's a normal guy. He joined the Army National Guard fresh out of high school when he was 17. He rose to the rank of Commander Sergeant Major. He was the highest ranking enlisted man ever to serve in the United States Congress. He became a top advocate in Congress for America's veterans. He used the GI Bill to go to college. He got his master's degree. He went to work teaching high school civics, social studies. He coached his school's football team and took them on to state championships for the first time ever. He smiles. His students love him. His family loves him. He's a normal guy. His daughter's a vegetarian. He's got a dog and a cat. He hunts. Now, I'm no hunter. I'm no fan of hunting, but, I grew up in the Midwest. It's a normal thing to do, especially for boys and men. Although my mom used to go hunting with her dad. I mean, back in the 30s. So, or back in the 20s maybe. I'm not sure, what the year was, but must have been the 30s because she was born in the 20s. But, he, like I said, he's the grandpa everybody wishes they had when they've lost their real grandpa to Fox News. He carved butter at the state fair. He helped create the school's first gay-straight alliance back in the 1990s when homophobia was like the norm in America. He said doing so as the coach, rather than letting one of the gay teachers do it, but as the football coach, the straight football coach with two kids, who's teaching high school civics, social studies, that would be a more powerful the single most possible powerful statement of support for the queer kids in the school. He passed. And this is what's insane. He passed legislation, signed legislation, or maybe it was an executive order. I'm not sure. But in any case, the policy now in Minneapolis is that in all the public schools in the state, there are tampon machines in both the boys' and girls' bathrooms. Why the boys' bathrooms? In case there are trans boys who are still menstruating. I mean, it's just, this was a gesture of basically love and support for school students. And you know, it was a big deal for the girls, too. 1 in 10 girls misses school because of her period, because of lack of access to inexpensive products to deal with the period. And so Tim Walz, you know, put these machines, free dispensers in all the girls' restrooms too, you know, in the public schools of Minnesota. So, I mean, this is just a, you know, kind of a normal common sense thing to do with a shout out to the queer community. And so what are the Republicans doing now? What was their big attack against Tim Walz overnight? It's all over social media this morning. It started with, you know, libs of TikTok or whatever that, you know, hate account is. And they're calling him Tampon Tim. Like, this is all you've got? This is your big hit on the vice presidential candidate? I mean, it's just incredible. No purchased bone spur x-rays for Tim Walz. I mean, he's just embodies the patriotism that I grew up with in the Midwest. He reminds me of my own dad, who also left high school at 17 to go fight, you know, Nazis in World War II in my dad's case. You know, his contrast with Trump's infidelities, his con jobs, his constant angry bitterness is like a sunlight-like disinfectant for our body politic. And he shows up J.D. Vance with his creepy obsession with women's genitals, birth rates, and his fealty to billionaire patrons for the weird guy that he is. I can't tell you how happy I am that Tim Walz is our vice presidential nominee, and how silly this Tampon Timmy hashtag is. It's pathetic.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
We're going to win this election big if people just show up. Double check your voter registration, especially if you live in a red state.